My name's Angela Reinhold, and I'd like to share with you a water safety plan experience to provide a real-life example of water safety plan development and implementation, complete with successes and some of the challenges faced. This water safety plan led to strengthened relationships between the supplier and other stakeholders at the catchment and household level, improved water quality, and also more satisfied customers willing to pay more for the service. Once the water safety plan was implemented, the supplier increased rates by about 30% to address a long-standing discrepancy between operations and maintenance costs and revenue. So let's start with hazard identification. As the water safety plan team considered hazards and hazardous events at each step in the water supply chain that threatened water safety, an issue was raised related to inadequate toilet facilities in a nearby village. The source of water for this system was a stream source, and this village that was still practicing open defecation was located not far upstream of the system intake. So the potential existed for human waste to be washed into the stream during rain events and microbially contaminate the water supply. So the water safety plan team then assessed the risk associated with this hazard using a customized qualitative risk assessment approach rather than the semi-quantitative approach. And they determined that this risk was unacceptably high, that something more needed to be done to control it. But what could be done? The solution in this case wasn't simple because the village was outside the direct control of the supplier. Now, I should mention that the supplier had in place treatment infrastructure, including slow sand filtration and chlorination, to protect against microbial hazards. But the water safety plan team and the supplier felt strongly that that wasn't enough, that something really needed to be done to address this hazard at its source, to provide that other layer of protection. So what the water safety plan decided to do was create a detailed action plan to engage other stakeholders to address the issue. So through the initiative and leadership of the water safety plan team, a collaboration was created between this upstream village and the Department of Water Supply and Sanitation. And ultimately, this collaboration resulted in that village being educated and some technical resources provided and some financial resources provided for a village-wide sanitation project. And within a year, toilets had been constructed and the village was declared officially by the government of Nepal to be an open defecation-free zone. In terms of ongoing operational monitoring to confirm the continued effectiveness of this particular control measure, government staff visit the village from time to time to ensure that the sanitation infrastructure is sound and that behaviors have in fact changed. One of the things that impressed me most about this water safety plan experience in Nepal is how effectively the plans made, the improvement plan and the operational monitoring plan have been implemented. And in my opinion, that has everything to do with the way the water safety plan was approached, the spirit in which it was approached. In Nepal, the plans were created to be implemented. Now, as obvious as that statement may seem, that's not the case everywhere. I've seen water safety plans, less successful, less effective water safety plans, approached as a series of exercises to be completed, boxes to be ticked, rather than an opportunity to improve system management. And when a water safety plan is approached with this checklist mentality, implementation is often challenging and the overall value of the water safety plan can be limited. Another factor that contributed to the effective implementation of the plans in Nepal is that a system of regular follow-up and accountability was built into the water safety plan. As an example, once a month water safety plan team meetings are held and the status of improvements are reviewed. Are they on track? If not, why not? Who's responsible for getting them back on track? During these meetings, records from operational monitoring are also reviewed and compiled, submitted to senior management for their sign-off. So overall, the supplier has done an excellent job of integrating key elements of the water safety plan into their routine operations, such that the water safety plan has just become a part of the way they do business. I first became familiar with this water safety plan a year after it had been developed, when I was asked to provide an independent review of the plan to identify opportunities to strengthen it. And through this review, a few issues were brought to light, mostly related to misunderstandings or misinterpretations of some of the guidance provided in the Water Safety Plan Manual. So I'll share a couple of points with you. One of the issues that was raised was that the Water Safety Plan team during hazard identification really focused on what is currently wrong with the system versus what's wrong with the system now, what's occurred in the past, and what could potentially go wrong in the future. As an example, they had very few hazards identified within the distribution system. And that was because they limited their assessment to what they could see at the time of the assessment. For instance, exposed pipe work was identified as a hazard because it was visible during the assessment, but no consideration was given to unsafe pipeline repair practices, for instance, because that wasn't readily apparent at the time of the assessment. So it's important when conducting hazard identification to consider not only what's wrong at the time, but what could potentially go wrong in the future. Another issue that was raised was related to existing control measures. For the most part, this water safety plan didn't consider and didn't document existing control measures. It was focused only on proposed controls or additional controls, improvements. And this really is a critical gap, because in order to systematically determine whether or not additional control is needed, it's important to assess risk in light of the controls that are already in place and the effectiveness of those controls. So through this review process, the Water Safety Plan team realized that there was more that could be done to improve their water safety plan. And I think that this is a good example of the stepwise approach to water safety planning. It's not always realistic. In fact, it's rarely realistic to do everything that needs doing in a single pass. But there's value in every effort. The Water Safety Plan team in Nepal may not have developed a flawless water safety plan their first time through, but they did some great work. They made a great start and achieved some inspiring results. And because the Water Safety Plan team appreciates that water safety planning is a process of continuous improvement, then the list of gains realized will continue to grow through the years as their water safety plan matures. So with that, I would like to wish you all the best in your own water safety planning efforts.